It's opening night in the NHL. What do Dave and I think is going to happen over the next few months? Who's going to win the division? Who's going to score the most goals in the league? How's Connor Bedard going to fare in his rookie season? All of those answers coming up on today's edition of the Locked On Leafs podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day.
You're Locked On Maple Leafs, your daily podcast on the Toronto Maple Leafs. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hello and welcome into the Locked On Leafs podcast, a daily Maple Leaf centric podcast hosted by myself, Mike DiStefano, and my co-host, Dave Morassutti. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Speaking of Game Time, we got games tonight, pal. I wonder if any of our listeners use the Game Time app to buy some of these tickets, if they're potentially living in one of these cities, whether you're in Vegas or you're out in Pittsburgh, Tampa, because those are the three teams that will be hosting other teams as the NHL has officially begins tonight. And let me tell you, man, they got themselves a pretty good triple header. Nashville at Tampa, that game's at 5:30. Chicago at Pittsburgh with Bedard versus Crosby in prime time. Quite the spicy matchup there. And then you'll see the banner raise at 10:30 as Vegas hosts the Seattle Kraken. I'm excited for tonight, man. Like, I know the Maple Leafs, they are not on opening night, which is kind of a bummer. Neither is Connor McDavid, by the way. So not having Matthews or McDavid playing on opening night, kind of lackluster, kind of silly. Like, why you have Nashville, Tampa on night one doesn't really make a whole lot of sense to me. Probably a Toronto, Tampa could be something you might want
they're
here.
not being Toronto, Montreal off that opening night. That's like a staple now.
Well, then move it to Tuesday. Why is Tampa playing on night one? Like, who cares?
Well, I guess we were assuming this would have been a Vasilevsky-Saros matchup on night one, not a Saros and Johansson night one.
That's true. That's true. That's true. McDavid, though, could have been the 10:30 game against Vegas. Like, why isn't McDavid on that?
I think a Vegas Oilers like opening night have the banner raising when the Oilers are there.
And have McDavid watch a banner go up that's not his, just fueling more anger that he hasn't won one himself, just setting him up for a monstrous night and a monstrous season again. I think that was also a little bit of they missed the boat a little bit on a couple of these games. One they didn't miss the boat on, though, is the Chicago and Pitt game, because that's marquee. That's what you want to see. Connor Bedard opening up his NHL career, number one pick against former number one pick Sidney Crosby, 8 o'clock primetime game. That's exactly what we want to see, isn't it?
Yeah, and Connor Bedard has spoken very highly of Sidney Crosby. It's kind of hard to not speak highly of Sidney Crosby at this point in his career.
Yeah, he's kind of good. Yeah, he's done some good things in this league.
He's done a few good things, and there's been a lot of buzz around Pittsburgh with Dubas heading over there, right? And so
it's Erik Karlsson now, right?
What he's did with the Erik Karlsson trade. The Penguins are certainly a team that a lot of people are going to be keeping their eyes on, and like you want to have Connor Bedard's first game be a noteworthy matchup, right? We don't want to see, Chicago going up against, I'm trying to think of like a team in the division, like Minnesota or
like Arizona.
Yeah.
Could you imagine if the NHL actually made Connor Bedard make his NHL debut inside of Mullet Arena? Could you imagine? Like, I know they're dumb. They're not that dumb, though, Dave.
No, they're not that dumb. But yeah, no, it is a good matchup. It's nice that you also getting an Eastern Conference, Western Conference matchup. Like you usually don't see that. Like you're also getting that with Nashville and Tampa. I don't mind that too. I am surprised about the early start time for that Lightning Predators game. That was the other thing I
Yeah,
really realized.
I think it's just the staggered starts. I think ESPN's got all 3 games. I think it's just staggered starts. You got the 5:30 leading into your 8 o'clock Pittsburgh game, and then 2.5 hours later, you got Seattle Vegas.
I thought it was for the Florida crowd, to be honest.
Oh, it's yeah. I mean, nah. I think they'll be alright. Get off work at 5, head to the rink. I think they'll be okay. But solid opening night. I think everyone's gonna have their eyes on that Chicago Pittsburgh game, anyways. I'm just looking right now. Connor Bedard on FanDuel shot prop market, a goal market, plus 200 to score a goal tonight. Kind of like those odds, Dave. Kind of like those odds.
How many to score 4 goals, Mike?
4 goals. I don't know if I can go with 4 goals. That is not an option, but 2 goals plus 1,200. So if you want to bet that twice, maybe that's a way to do it. But
just remember, there's a bar that's been set by one Austin Matthews that he has to reach on opening night. So
I wasn't aware. What happened opening night for Austin Matthews? I'm unaware.
He might have Erik Karlsson may remember this one when he put one between his legs and then beat Craig Anderson.
Could you imagine if Connor Bedard actually tied or broke that record against Erik Karlsson? He's gonna sit there and be like, what the hell? Matthews did this to me, 7 years ago, and here we got Bedsy doing it once again. That would be hilarious.
Is Craig Anderson close by? Maybe the Pittsburgh can give him a call, see if he wants to get a net.
Well, I don't know. Tristan Jarry is much better, to be completely honest with you.
Connor Bedard can write on the sick. Thanks for the memories.
Oh man, wouldn't that be funny? Wouldn't that be funny? But yeah, it's gonna be a really, really good game. I'm excited to watch it for sure. Glad that it's on opening night. They were smart to do so. Speaking of Bedard, before we we'll take a quick break in just a moment, and then we'll get into our predictions and how we think the season's going to fare. Where do we see Toronto landing in the Atlantic, and who else are going to make up all the playoff teams? And we'll give you our projections of the Stanley Cup champion, a couple of key awards and whatnot. But in terms of the season you're expecting out of Connor Bedard, give me your prediction. How many goals and points do you think he scores this year?
Watching him play in the preseason, this guy is going to find any way to score. Everyone's going to think about, he's not always going to be able to tow and drag and things like that. But that he doesn't need to do that. He's going to have, who else is Chicago going to put out there to score goals, right? He's going to be on the top power play. And he's got Taylor Hall with him. I took Taylor Hall in one of my fantasy leagues, and everyone's like, it was actually not a bad idea considering who he's going to be playing with, right? So I'm thinking I think 30 goals should be an easy feat for him.
So I'm going to give you the over-unders that are currently on FanDuel. You can make these wagers right now, probably up until game time. So if you're listening to this podcast and they haven't dropped the puck yet, you could probably still make these wagers. But currently the over-under for goals is set at 31.5.
Yeah, I would go with the over for that.
See, it's funny because I didn't look at this when I made my prediction, and my prediction was 31. Right on the money. And now I'm like, oh, do I go with the over? I think I would. 32 is the max. Somehow you can actually bet that he scores a hat trick in his first 20 games, and it's only plus 120. There's a lot of fanfare for Connor Bedard, man. I don't know if I see him scoring a hattie in his first 20 games, but 31.5, I think I go over, but I think it's just a little tiny tad bit. I think he scores less than 35 though in his opening season. Points is 68.5.
Oh, that's a tough one there. I think he gets if he gets the 32 goals, we already know he's more of a goal scorer than a playmaker, right? So he is going to have Taylor Hall with him. I think Lucas Reichel is also going to be on his wing too, potentially. Either I don't think it's going to be Nick Foligno, right? I move things around. For me, I'm probably leaning towards 68. I'd probably go with the under, unless he goes off on and his line mates really step up
So as of now, according to Daily Faceoff, which is, a tool that I like to use when I'm looking to see what lines are around the league, he's currently set to play with Taylor Hall on the left, Ryan Donato on the right.
Donato.
Donato. Yeah,
Yeah, put me.
Lucas Reichel's centering his own line with Taylor Raddysh and Tyler Johnson. This team is terrible. Let me show you guys what this team is. And this is why it is tough to see Connor Bedard really going off this year. And it has nothing to do with Bedard. It's more so there ain't much help going on. Like look at this group of players that he's got with him. It's like Hall and a bunch of randoms.
Ugh.
Like that fourth line, Corey Perry, Jason Dickinson, Nick Foligno, like that's just a pure veteran line. But like that middle six, yikes. Like Tyler Johnson, not what he used to be. I mean, Athanasiou's got speed, but I don't know, Boris Kachuk, what's that guy gonna do for you? This is not a great squad. And even like if you look
Remind me
at
of the goaltending for this team too.
the goaltending, oh, that is one. Peter Mrazek, and who's their I don't even know who their backup is. Oh, Harvard Soderblom. There you go. I guess Colin Blackwell and Philip Kurashev are on IR. Those guys could factor into your middle six at some point as well to help out a little bit. But even like on the power play unit, there's not much help there. Like he's got Taylor Raddysh and Tyler Johnson as his wingers on the power play. I don't know if Connor Bedard is going to score as many times as we think. I don't know if the offense is going to be as prolific as we think, and that's just because there's not a whole lot around him. He'd have to do a lot by himself. Yeah, I think I'm going to take the under. I think like 31 goals and like 30 some odd assists. So he'll be in and around there, maybe like a 65, 66 point season. But there's not a lot of dudes who can finish on that team.
Just a reminder that Austin Matthews in his rookie season, when he scored 40 goals, he finished with 69 points.
Yeah, exactly. Nice. Great number, by the way. So yeah, I think slightly under the point totals in the 65-ish point mark and probably like 31 to 32. 33 goals, 33 assists for 66 points. There's my projection for Connor Bedard. All right. Why don't we take a quick break? When we get back, we'll go through division by division, how we think things are going to shake out. We'll talk about who we think are going to win the wild card spots, what the playoffs will look like come the springtime, and then we'll declare our champions and major award winners as well. So that's all coming up on the show. Today's show is brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. You can snap into the NHL this season with FanDuel. It's America's #1 sportsbook right now. New customers get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. That's $200 in bonus bets, win or lose. If you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time to get in on the action. The app is super easy to use. There's a wide range of betting options, including spreads, player props, over-unders. Like I said, Connor Bedard, first night in the NHL, plus 200, 2-1 odds to score a goal. I like those odds. You can get them over at FanDuel. So visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn and kick off the NHL season. FanDuel, official partner of the Locked On Network. Welcome back into the Locked On Leafs podcast. It's Mike DiStefano. Got Dave Morassutti with me. This is our kind of a season preview show, I suppose. When it comes to league-wide preview, we'll do a lot more, narrow, heavy hitting on the Maple Leaf season on tomorrow's show. So make sure that you are subscribed to us wherever you get your podcasts from. Also up on YouTube. We have daily content coming out Monday through Friday, all about the Maple Leafs. Man, we're all Leafs all the time here at Locked On Leafs. That being said, a little bit more of an around the league look into things this year, or for this podcast. But let's start in the Atlantic, right? Where the Leafs are currently situated. Who are the three teams that you expect to win those divisional spots this year in the Atlantic?
I mean, I still think the Leafs have the best shot at finishing first in the Atlantic. So I still have them at #1 there. I'm going Tampa second. Am I confident with it? With Vasilevsky out, not as much. But I've also seen this Tampa team still find a way to make the playoffs with Nikita Kucherov out for a whole season.
Yeah, I mean, a goalie's a lot more difficult
Right.
to overcome than one of your contributing forwards. That being said, it is only expected to be 6 to 8 weeks, so it's like 2 months, pretty much. Maybe it was 8 to 10, but basically 2 months um, of a 6 month season. So if they could stay 500 or so in his absence and just rely on offense and the guys who they paid a lot of money to score goals, Kucherov, Point, Sorelli, etc. I think they should be okay. So I'm not. I, I don't see them falling out of the playoff race with this Vasilevsky injury. Are they going to be considered, the beasts in the East like they are every year? Maybe not, but I think they're still well in the race for sure.
Yeah. And then I've had a hard time picking against the Boston Bruins because this team had 135 points. I know that Patrice Bergeron's gone. I know David Krejci's gone. Even a 30-point drop, they still be close to a 100-point team. They still got Pasternak. They still got Marchand. Their blue line is still, pretty solid themselves. I think they may have to reinvent themselves a little bit as a team because they don't have Bergeron. They don't have Krejci, but I still think that's going to be a half-decent team. They got a good tandem with Swayman and Allmark. So I say third in the East for the Bruins unless things really fall off for them, which I don't know if I can see that.
All right. So you've got the Leafs, the Lightning, and the Bruins. So pretty much the same cast of characters we've seen for like three of the last 4 years, pretty much, representing the Atlantic Division in the playoffs. So I've got two of those three squads. I'm curious what one you think I have falling out of the divisional spot.
I'm going to pick Boston.
I do. I do have Boston falling out.
I know
I've
you
got
have
Toronto. Yeah, I've got Toronto winning the division. I just think that they are equipped to do so. I mean, they've just continued to have regular season success year after year. That's not really what worries me about the Maple Leafs. It's what happens in the postseason. Obviously, is the big problem with this group and with this squad. The lack of size on the blue line has never been an issue in the regular season. It's come playoff time. So I still think they're going to score a bunch of goals, rack up a bunch of points. I think Samsonov and Joseph Wall should be able to be a quality tandem for this team and lead them to their first division title in many, many years. I've got the Buffalo Sabres, though, surprising people, surprising guys, and I've got them finishing second in this division. They finished 1 point out of a playoff spot a year ago, and I think this team only got better. I think that they all got a year older. You just saw them pay Rasmus Dahlin. Man got paid. What was that 11 mil for 8 years? 8 times 11 for 88 schmil. Not bad for Rasmus Dahlin. A little tip of the cap to him. But I think it's a team that's chock full of young talent that continues to take leaps. Dylan Cousins is really a star. Tage Thompson becoming one of the best goal scorers in the NHL. You've seen Jeff Skinner return to his dominant form, and they've just gotten better. And you've got another year of Owen Power on the blue line. Hopefully, Matthias Samuelsson can stay healthy and continue to progress as kind of their number 3, number 4 shutdown defenseman. So I like Buffalo. Goaltending, bit of a question mark. Devin Levi is going to try and carry the load there as he enters his rookie season in the NHL. But if he is the real deal, like people are expecting, I think Buffalo is going to be a lot to handle this year. So I got them at number 2, with Tampa falling to number 3. I think they'll still stay within reach in the wake of the Vasilevsky injury, just based on the fact that the team is just really good up front. Defensively, they're they'll struggle, I think, but I think it'll be track meets a lot for them and ultimately stick around enough where they'll still be within reach once Vasilevsky gets back, and I think they'll go after it. Plus, you look at how much Boston's been depleted down the middle. No Bergeron, no Krejci. You look at the injuries to the Panthers on the blue line. Montour's missing the first little bit. Ekblad's missing the first little bit. What are you going to get at Bobrovsky this year? I'm not quite sure. You never know what you're going to get out of that guy from a year-to-year basis. And they only made the playoffs by 1 point, and it was thanks to a couple of reasons. Like, it wasn't thanks to themselves. It was because Alex Lyon came through big, and also the Pittsburgh Penguins dookied in their pants. So I've got them kind of, on the outside looking in as well. So Toronto, Buffalo, and Tampa, my division winners from the Atlantic. The Metro, Dave. Who do you got winning the Metro? Your three teams winning those divisional spots.
Three teams for me. I'm gonna go with almost pretty much similar to last year. Got Carolina, New Jersey. Pretty much identical in the Rangers.
Yeah, I've got the same three. Is that your order? Carolina, Devils, Rangers?
Yeah, I think it's like you look at how these teams went through the offseason. They kind of all just kind of went through the offseason and said we're just gonna make sure we stay in the same spot as last year.
Yeah, I'm going to give the Devils the slight edge this year. I think that they do take that leap, and you see the Devils go, take that leap forward there and win this division. But it'll just be a coin flip, honestly, between them and Carolina, realistically. But I think this year the East is going to run through the Devils. I have them winning the East in general. I think they'll end up with the most points, they end up with the top seed, home ice advantage throughout the Eastern Conference playoffs. What teams are on the outside looking in for you, though, Dave? Who's catching these wild card positions for you?
So I think Buffalo is one. I was tossing up between Buffalo and Ottawa. Ottawa, my concern for them is injuries. They don't have a lot of depth, and they're already dealing with Josh Norris kind of out. So I'm a little concerned about that. And I want to see this goaltending and this blue line, see how improved they actually are. We keep hearing about it, but I want to actually see it because that was their issue last year. That's what kept them from making the playoffs last year, was that blue line. Even with the addition of Chikrin, right? Felt a little too late for that. So I think Buffalo for sure. And if the goaltending holds up, I think Pittsburgh can get that last wild card spot.
Yeah, I'm with you on one of those two teams. Obviously, I already have Buffalo making the playoffs, so I guess we're in lockstep there. I've got Pittsburgh making the playoffs. I think they came in and they got better by adding Erik Karlsson. Obviously, they added Ryan Graves to that blue line. They added some depth throughout their lineup. Kyle Dubas did a good job. He spent a lot of money on free agency. He certainly did. But I think that he rounded out that team and gave them a lot more depth than they had previously. Banking on the goaltending situation to kind of fix itself after a couple down years is definitely a roll of the dice, but that's what Kyle Dubas does with the goaltending position, apparently. Rolls the dice. Worked out for him last year with Ilya Samsonov. Maybe it'll work out for him again here with Tristan Jarry. And if it does, which I believe it will to a certain extent, enough at least for them to claim a wild card spot. Because man, did the playoffs ever suck last year without Sidney Crosby. I don't want to see it again. So I'm also going to be pushing for the Pittsburgh Penguins to finish in a wild card spot. And I do have the Ottawa Senators winning a wild card spot. I think that they're much improved. They got a very good top nine. I think that they'll figure it out with Shane Pinto. He will be part of this team moving forward. I don't see him withering away for a whole season. They will figure it out. He'll be on the squad. Hopefully Josh Norris can get back and get healthy and he can be a big member of this team as well. But ultimately, they're a deep squad. Top nine. They've got a solid blue line core that they've been able to put together there. Jake Sanderson got paid. He's going to be a revelation. You got a full season of Jacob Chikrin. Obviously, you've got Thomas Chabot and Artem Zub, who's been a pretty solid piece for them as well on the blue line as kind of a shutdown guy. So I like what they've done. And Jonas Korpisalo, you saw how good he was last year in that series for the LA Kings. I think that he's a quality goaltender. And they got a decent 1-2 punch with him and Anton Forsberg. So I like what Ottawa's been building, and this is the year they have to take the step. If it's new ownership, man. If they don't take that step, they don't make the playoffs. I think the coaching staff, the GM, we could see potentially some house cleaning if things go awry. You look at the last couple of years for that team, they cannot win games in October and November. They have been atrocious to start each and every one of the last, I think, 4 years. And then they find themselves in a hunt late, but have already digged themselves way too deep of a ditch by the time, March and April come around. So if they can get themselves some wins early, and I think I saw they have a very strong home schedule early in the year. Take advantage of it, get off to a hot start. That's why I see them finally winning a wild card position, which means I do have the Boston Bruins and the Florida Panthers and the Washington Capitals all missing out on the playoffs. Dave, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I don't have a lot of faith in Washington. I just that squad doesn't screen to me. They'll be competitive, but that doesn't screen to me as perennial Stanley Cup, playoff contenders. The Islanders, they have arguably one of the better goaltenders in the league, but that's really all I kind of like. Yeah, Bo Horvat's not bad, but like that team just don't
Not
have
a lot of offense. Not a lot of offense there.
Yeah, Pierre Engvall getting that 7-year deal to be a feature point of this team. Your boy, So, and I know like some people might say the Red Wings could take a step forward, but I still think there's still out with that tandem, right? Ville Husso and
blue line. You see that blue line?
I've seen it in person. And that was more the AHL blue line, but yeah, that blue line. It's going to take some years for that team to get to where they want to be, right? So Detroit,
they got Justin Hall playing top 4 minutes. Let's keep that in mind.
I kept that in mind when I saw him out there on a 5-on-3 against the Leafs, and I said, "Oh, this is going to go great." So yeah, I think and then we know where the Flyers are at. They're trying to be one of the worst teams in the league, and the Blue Jackets. That's a team that I don't even know what they're trying to be right now because they got some young guys. They went and added a bunch of veterans. Like that was
there was a plan. There was a plan, and they had to deviate from that plan when all that stuff blew up with Mike Babcock. I've got a take on the Columbus Blue Jackets, though. I'll save it for a little later in the show when we do our bold prediction, but it might surprise you. So we'll get to that. We'll get to the West on the other side. But first, let me tell you about one of today's show sponsors, and it's our friends at Game Time. You shouldn't have to worry when you're buying your tickets to your next big event. Game Time is fast and easy way to buy tickets for all sports, music, comedy, and theater events near you with killer last-minute deals, all in pricing, views from your seat, and the best price guarantee. Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying tickets. Game Time is the only ticketing app that gives you the complete peace of mind with your purchase. You can see the view from your seat before you buy, so you know exactly what to expect when you arrive. They are obsessed with finding ways to help you save money on tickets. You can find exclusive flash deals and sponsored deals on tickets for football, basketball, hockey, baseball, concerts, and more. And the Game Time guarantee means that you'll always get the best price. If you find tickets in the same section row for less, Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. Take the guesswork away from buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and the redeem code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Welcome back into the Locked On Leafs podcast. It's Mike DiStefano and Dave Morassutti. We're doing our season preview here on the Locked On Leafs show. So a little bit more of a league-wide show, but keep in mind we are mainly a Maple Leafs-centric podcast, and you can listen to us 5 days a week, Monday through Friday. You can find our podcast wherever you find your podcast at, whichever app you use. Also up on YouTube as well. Hit subscribe, hit the little notification bell as well, so you are notified whenever we drop new content each and every day. Let's get to the West, Dave. The Central Division. Who are the 3 teams you see ending up with Central Division slots come next June or next April?
Yeah, I think Colorado, Dallas. I think those two are going to be neck and neck for tops in that division. And yeah, I mean, like I think it's going to be. I think it should be Minnesota. I was debating putting Nashville in there, but I don't know if they've done enough.
Really? Nashville was your team you were debating.
Yeah.
The team that just paid a goalie and a number 1 center a crap load of money?
Nope, because it's the same sort of issues. Like, I know you're talking about the Winnipeg Jets. That caught me off guard. Let's first off.
The contract?
those contracts. I was working today.
Yeah.
And we see this email from the Jets, and like a lot of teams are emailing their final roster. So initially I thought it was final roster. As Jets announced, and I see these contract signings. I thought it was a spam email first and foremost, because I'm like, there's no way these two just signed 7-year deals. And I'm thinking to myself, well, of course they did. They're both 30 plus. They're now set for the rest of their careers. So much for wanting to win. Like, I understand the Jets.
Shifley's 30 years old.
What's that?
Shifley's 30 years old now.
Mm-hmm.
Oh
People
my
think
god,
he's a young guy. He's
feels
30.
so
He
old.
turned 30 this year, right? So he was the first Winnipeg Jets draft pick since they moved back from Atlanta.
Right. He was. That's right.
So for me, the issue with putting the Jets in that conversation, I know that they had a down year, and Connor Hellebuyck can obviously will this team into the playoffs himself if he wanted to. But this team, their blue line still screams to me as not great. Josh Morrissey, really good. The drop off after Josh Morrissey is apparent to me.
Put some respect on my guy Neil Pionk's name, first of all.
Okay. And then who
Nate
else?
Schmidt's a good player too. I like Nate Schmidt. Nate Schmidt too.
He had a
he's
really
sneaky
rough
good player.
year.
He did. But I liked what he was able to do there before when he was in Vancouver. I thought he was decent, and then in Washington, I thought that he was a quality player for them too. So,
question is, are these guys gonna buy into Rick Bowness after how that last season went?
Yeah, it's gonna be. You bring up a solid point. Is that relationship fractured or soiled too much? And I don't look. It seems like maybe the problem could have lied with one of either Pierre-Luc Dubois and or Blake Wheeler, both of which no longer with this team. So that's a possibility that they've moved on from what could have been. I don't know this for a fact. I'm not in the locker room, but potentially the problem in the locker room could have stemmed from those two guys. I mean, from the day that Rick Bowness took over, I mean, good chance him and Blake Wheeler didn't see eye to eye because he stripped the C off that guy's chest. Typically, I would imagine that Blake Wheeler was none too happy, and based on the season he had last year, it kind of seemed like he sulked about it all year long, and that could have really fractured the relationship within that entire room. So by getting those two out of the locker room and bringing in a guy like Gabe Vilardi, who's young, scored 30 goals last year, you bring in Alex Iafallo, a solid, middle six player who, can score 20 goals, and Rasmus Kupari, a good fourth line, young up and coming centerman. I like what they've done. If Cole Perfetti can stay healthy, I do think that up front they're pretty solid. The blue line, yes, it definitely could use some work for sure. But whenever you've got the best line of defense behind the blue line, aka one of the top goaltenders in the NHL, and Connor Hellebuyck, I like their chances. I have them as one of my 3 teams making the division, getting a divisional spot. I do have Colorado and Dallas making the 1 and 2, and I do have Winnipeg with the number 3 slot. I had Minnesota getting a wild card spot, and then the Calgary Flames got my other wild card spot.
I have the Jets getting one of my wild card spots, and that's why I didn't have them top 3 in the division.
Well, so it would be the Jets in Nashville for you?
As the wild card? No, I have it as the Jets and Flames as my wild card.
How is that possible?
You got so I'm going to go through Colorado, Minnesota, Dallas are my top 3.
Yep.
Then I got as the 2 wild cards, Winnipeg and Calgary.
I don't want to call you out here, guy, but how is it possible that you were debating Nashville?
Because I have Nashville just missing out as a I wasn't sure if Nashville was even going to be in the top 3 at first.
So for you, they're either 3rd or not making the playoffs.
Yeah,
you didn't like Winnipeg can't make 3rd. They're not in the. It's well,
nope.
That makes no sense.
No, because I don't think Winnipeg is better than those 3 teams ahead of them.
But Nashville is. Nashville could be.
if Saros plays as well as he does, and some of the addition, and Roman Yossi is back to being, Roman Yossi, right? But I
So
don't.
so Nashville's either finishing what? Okay, well, either way,
Nashville's a boomer bust team for me, right?
they're
That's
a
why.
bust team for me. They've got nothing. They got a good goalie. They got Roman Yossi who's aging. Outside of that, I think they're not even close to sniffing a playoff spot.
It didn't seem like a team that wanted to tear it down when they should have been.
Well, they got rid of Matt Duchene. They got rid of Ryan Johansson. Like this
to them though, they were doing nothing for them.
I know, but like they didn't replace them with anyone.
Hey, Ryan O'Reilly.
Okay, they brought in Ryan O'Reilly. You're right, they did. They signed Luke Shen. Luke Shen signed in Nashville too.
Yes.
Okay, so they brought in some.
Shen for me. That's why I'm not putting them in the play.
They brought in Maple Leaf rejects. Is what they signed.
Well, Ryan O'Reilly felt like more of the reject than Luke Shen did, but yeah.
I'm just playing. I respect what both those guys brought to the organization here in Toronto. Okay, we'll move past that. So then who do you have in the Pacific? I guess we completely skip past that one right to the wild card stuff.
Like Vegas, I don't see any of those teams being usurped in the top 3 there. I know with the Kings, the only concern I have is their goaltending, but they added Dubois. That was
Cam Talbot.
I mean, Cam Talbot's rolled his team to the playoffs before, right?
Yeah, but then he did not do that with Ottawa last year.
Yeah, well, Ottawa's a little different than LA, in my opinion.
True.
Like, I have Calgary as a wildcard team, but they could easily get top 3. If Markstrom is back to what he should be, because that was a pretty brutal year for him, and it seems like everyone in the Flames is so happy that Sutter's gone, that I feel like they're in for a better year. I think at least the playoffs and a wildcard team. Like, for me, I felt like Seattle showed that they can be a good team, but their goaltending is also what gives me a lot of worries, right?
The heebie-jeebies.
Yes. Right? So I think Seattle kind of overachieved a little bit last year when they made the wild card. And I know they beat Colorado in round 1.
Yeah.
But Colorado was wounded a little bit last year.
That's
not going to happen again. So I think Seattle's the team for me that's going to have a drop off.
Yeah, I'm with you. That is the team, the lone team, I guess. Or actually, Winnipeg didn't make the team either. But that is one. Actually, yeah, they did. That is the lone team that I have missing out on the West that was in there last year. I have Edmonton, Vegas, and LA making up the 3 Pacific spots. And then, Minnesota and Calgary, I have also making it in as well. Wouldn't be shocked. I mean, it's a coin flip. I could see Calgary totally competing and even winning that Pacific division. Like, if things go well, like I was very high on the Flames last year, very high on them. And I mean,
the team won the Stanley Cup last year, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, like they could definitely still be as good as they were a year ago. Like they didn't really do much to change that roster. So if they get the bounce back from Huberdeau, the bounce back from Markstrom, Chris Tanev, if he can stay healthy, you see some guys take that next step. You see Matthew Coronado is having a terrific camp with them. Make the team if he can end up being a revelation for that team. I think that Calgary could certainly make some noise here in the Pacific. Certainly a playoff squad, in my opinion. All right. What's the Stanley Cup final matchup, Dave? Who's going to the Cup final? Give me your Eastern champions and your Western champions.
To avoid the jinxing and potential cursing of Leafs, I'm going to leave them out after what happened last year.
Do I have to do that too?
No, you don't have to. You can put that stuff on yourself. I'm going to put the Devils in the Cup final. And I'm going to put Colorado in the Cup final.
This is the year, Dave. This is the year. We see the Toronto Maple Leafs.
We're going to do this again, huh?
Break through, buddy. Break through. They're not only going to win one round, They're going to win 2 rounds, and they're going to win a 3rd round, and they're going to represent the Eastern Conference in the Stanley Cup final, and they're going to run up against the Edmonton Oilers, an all-Canadian Stanley Cup final. McDavid, Matthews, what could be possibly better than that? Nothing, I tell you. That would be just terrific theater. And the one who'll be hoisting the Stanley Cup at the end of the day for the first time in his career with the whole city behind him, excited, Connor McDavid and the Edmonton Oilers, I believe, will win the Stanley Cup. But who will be the goalie, Jack Campbell or Stewie Skinner? That is a big question.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me. Jack Campbell looked pretty good in preseason.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't surprise me, but that's the Oilers' Achilles heel right now. That and maybe their blue line. 5-on-5 play.
I mean, we got question marks with the Leafs. Hey, question marks with the Leafs blue line too.
Oh yeah.
Like this.
The teams are pretty similar if I'm not if we're gonna be honest here, right?
Right. Like the Devils definitely, I think they are the team that scares me most, I think, if I'm Toronto. Their big Achilles heel is goaltending. And we know how important goaltending is once you get to the playoffs. And that's a team that worries me, right? Like that's kind of what killed them last year, the Devils, and they didn't address it. They're still going to go with Akira Schmid and Vitek Vanacek. So I think it's very possible that this is the year Toronto could steamroll through the East. And look, they could beat Edmonton. I think that would be a terrific 7-game series, coin flip series. But at some point, man, McDavid's just going to go Super Saiyan and will this group to a Stanley Cup. And
well, as you saw with Vegas, you need to win the 5-on-5 battle.
Yeah,
because if you try to give the Oilers power play opportunities, we know in the playoffs that was an issue. They weren't exactly getting all those opportunities, and Vegas found a way to beat them at 5-on-5.
This is true. So whoever does play Edmonton, got to be as clean as possible.
Mm-hmm.
Got to do it.
Don't try slashing guys in the face either, like when Alex Pietrangelo did.
Probably also, yeah, not a good call. Give me a bold prediction, Dave. Bold prediction from this season.
Oh, bold prediction for this year. You know what? Come back. I want to hear yours first.
Okay.
Then you had one that you kind of teased, and I want to get it first.
I teased it, and mine is about the Columbus Blue Jackets. And it's that I think the Columbus Blue Jackets will remain in the wild card hunt until the final month of the season. They'll remain in the wild card hunt all the way through until April. I believe they'll be a competitive team this year. I really do. I like the makeup of that group. I know the situation with Mike Babcock, very unideal, but I think they can rally around it. If they can get competent goaltending, and look, Elvis Merzlikins, when he first got to the NHL, was fantastic. He was a terrific goaltender. The unfortunate death of Matthias Kevelniks certainly messed with him emotionally. He could tell that it impacted and affected his game last couple of years. Maybe things are different, and he can get back to being the goaltender that we thought he was going to be when he first arrived on the scene in the NHL from overseas. And if they can get that type of goaltending, that they improve that blue line a lot, they've got a lot of good young pieces. I think Gaudreau can have a bounce back year. He's kind of a sneaky fantasy guy for me this season, by the way, for all those who are doing fantasy. By the way, how did we draft on fantasy, by the way? For
I didn't show you the roster, but I think we did pretty well.
Nice.
We did pretty well.
So Dave and I are on a team together. We're going to be co-managing a team. So you got to actually give me the
I got to get you logged in. I got to get you in on that.
Yeah, you got to give me the co-manager here where
sure, I wasn't holding back at all.
Yeah.
We did pick Patrick Kane with the very last pick in the draft, by the way, as a stash.
We picked who?
Patrick Kane with the last pick in the draft.
Interesting. Okay. Interesting.
I mean, somebody
we'll
did
talk
pick
about that
in this draft. So if you want to get an idea of how that draft went. Yeah. It was a gag pick. It was a very actually, that was the last pick of the draft. So, but if you want to understand how that draft went.
I'm excited. I'm excited because I know a lot of the people who are listening, a lot of the men and women listening to the podcast right now and listen on a daily basis, took part in this Locked On Leafs draft. You know, a lot of the Discord family members, which by the way, go join Discord. I mean, we're gonna be popping off. The season's back. It's gonna be exciting. We'll put the link down below where you can join us. We got like every single day. There people are tweeting about what's going on, sharing all the opinions on the Leafs. Good little community and family that we got built there, and we got a fantasy league going on as well, which is going to be a lot of fun. But day-to-day conversation always within that Discord server. Go ahead.
So my bold prediction, if you're ready for it,
Yep.
is bold. Logan Cooley will win the Calder this year.
What? Logan Cooley? All right, I got to go check and see right now what the odds are on FanDuel for that one, because that is a bold prediction. Explain your reasoning, sir. Show your work.
If Arizona actually plays this kid, I think he's going to be a star for them. I like what I saw from him. Yeah, it's preseason. I get that, but this team is so different. Just watching him on the ice, he is a guy that can put up those points that we're talking about. Whether Bedard has enough around him to throw up points, I think Logan Cooley does if they play him, in a decent role, right, with this team. So I do like Logan Cooley. I've been a very high on him since Arizona drafted him, even though he is in Arizona. Right now he's centering. The only issue is he is centering a line right now with Kerfoot and Zucker. Not great.
Not the best. Not the best.
I would have preferred somebody maybe like a Lawson Krause over Kerfoot.
Yeah, or Clayton Keller, potentially.
Well, right now, Clayton Keller's on the line with Barrett Hayden and Nick Schmaltz.
Yeah, I would love for Clayton Keller to play with Logan Cooley.
I would too. I would too, and I think hopefully he puts himself in that position.
That's a bold take, man. Logan Cooley plus 700 to win the Calder. Connor Bedard minus 125. Yeah, minus money for Bedard to win the Calder.
That's
crazy.
That's crazy. Maybe I'll have to throw in a low wager on my bold prediction.
He's minus 124. So it's Connor Bedard versus the field. The field is plus money. That's how overwhelming favorite Connor Bedard is to win the Calder. Insane.
Mm-hmm.
Insane. I like it. I like it. Did you say who your champ was going to be?
Did I even say who my champ was going to be?
No, I think you just gave us your final, but you never said who's going to be lifting Lord Stanley.
I did not. I have it as Colorado.
Okay. I could see it, man. I could see it. If not Edmonton,
that team is going to be pissed off after what happened last year. Yeah. I don't know if Landeskog is even going to be a possibility to return, but they could pull some Kucherov edition late in the playoff. Bring it back for the playoffs.
We'll see.
They did say it was going to be a full year surgery. So
yeah. Now there's sneaky fantasy player, Jonathan Drouin. Did we get Drouin?
We did not get Drouin. I had him, and he was picked. He was in my queue. He was. I did. It's not like I didn't think about him. I did think.
He's playing top line minutes alongside McKinnon and Rantanen. This guy's going to put up some decent numbers this year, and he's going to be.
That's also been his issue. I think like last year was one of the first years he's been able to like be relatively healthy from when he was with Montreal.
He had there's a lot of things at play with Montreal, but him and McKinnon, really good buddies from their time obviously together, playing for the Halifax Mooseheads years ago back in junior. So playing back with him, I'm sure is a blessing, and he's gonna love it. And I think get back to loving hockey, and it could turn into a solid season for old Johnny Drouin. So maybe there's another little bold prediction. Jonathan Drouin will end up with more points. I don't know if this is a bold take or not. You tell me this is bold. Johnny Drouin ends up with more points than Matthew Nyes. Matthew Nyes.
I don't think that's a bold take.
Max Domi.
No, I don't even think.
Tyler Bertuzzi. He ends up with more points
Actually,
than
that would
Tyler
be a bold
Bertuzzi.
take. I think Bertuzzi's gonna have a good year, obviously.
So do I. That one's a little strong. Little strong of a take, the Bertuzzi one. But I think he outproduces. I think he does outproduce Domi and Nyes. I do think that does happen. So,
Okay.
yeah. All right, man. I'm excited for the season. Excited for the year. Should be a lot of fun. We got 3 games tonight: Nashville, Tampa, Chicago, Pitt, and then Seattle, Vegas, and then tomorrow, full slate, including the Toronto Maple Leafs. And we will reconvene here tomorrow morning. We'll do another podcast. We'll set up the game, tee everything up, and do our over-under predictions as well for the Toronto Maple Leafs. So we'll dive deep into how we think the Maple Leafs are going to fare this upcoming hockey season. That'll do it for us here today on the podcast, though. I'd like to thank you all for listening and supporting the show. You can subscribe to the Locked On Leafs podcast on all podcast platforms. Receive daily Leafs content. Follow myself on Twitter at Mickey_Canuck. Follow Dave at D_Morassutti, and follow the show as well at Locked On Leafs. Go ahead, leave a like if you enjoyed this video. Comment down below on YouTube. Who do you think is going to win the Stanley Cup? What's your big, bold prediction of this season? I'm excited to hear what you might have to say. And leave a review also. If you're listening on iTunes, leave a little, 5 stars and a quick review. That would help us a lot as well. We'll be back another episode for y'all tomorrow. But until then, keep it locked right here on Locked On Leafs.